everyone, MB here out for a hike on an overcast day in mid-April. Featured in today's lesson, we've got special guest Ben Teskey with the Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program. So Ben, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, MB. My name is Ben Teskey, and I'm with the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program. And today I'm going to be talking about a super cool animal that used to be a very abundant species in the Lake Ontario watershed. How it got here, how it disappeared from Lake Ontario, and what we're doing to bring it back. The Atlantic salmon is a large bony fish, also known as the leaping salmon. With long pectoral fins and a big powerful tail, it's able to jump up to 3 meters high as it fights its way up mighty rivers on its spawning migration. Atlantic salmon are native to the northern part of the Atlantic region. They arrived in the Lake Ontario watershed around 12,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Their population grew to be an enormous number, becoming the largest freshwater population of Atlantic salmon in the world. Adult Atlantic salmon live in large, deep water bodies like the Atlantic Ocean, and some populations live in large lakes. When it is time for the Atlantic salmon to spawn, which is their method of reproduction, they swim upriver and into cold water streams where they lay eggs in gravel nests called redds. The eggs hatch and the juvenile fish develop in the stream before swimming downstream to the big water. They grow much larger and then return to the same place that they started out as eggs, using their amazing sense of smell. Atlantic salmon have a sense of smell 1,000 times stronger than a dog's. They literally smell their way home. Wherever Atlantic salmon have lived, they have been very important members of the ecological community and important food sources for the people living in that region. Their importance here in the Lake Ontario watershed was no exception. For thousands of years, they were very important to Indigenous peoples living in the area and to the greater ecological community. When European people came to the area, first as explorers and then to settle, they remarked on the abundance of all forms of wildlife and noted the great number of Atlantic salmon. We have written accounts of settlers saying that they could walk across the rivers on the backs of these fish. There were so many of them. European settlement changed the ecosystems. Deforestation for villages and farms exposed the cold water streams to more sunlight, warming the water. And the loss of tree roots caused increased sediment in the water through erosion, which can then clog and abrade fish gills and smother fish eggs and benthic macroinvertebrates, the food source of Atlantic salmon and many other species of fish and aquatic animals. The settlers built dams on the rivers to power mills for the processing of lumber, grain, and textiles. These dams blocked Atlantic salmon from being able to return to their spawning grounds. The settlers also overharvested Atlantic salmon and polluted the water. The population of this species, that had been very abundant for thousands of years, began to decline until it completely vanished from the Lake Ontario watershed by 1898. Through the loss of this magnificent creature, we have learned some valuable lessons. Mainly, we need to have a better and caring relationship for the other organisms we share this planet with. And we need to take care of the health of the environment that takes care of them and us. The Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program's goal is to restore Atlantic salmon back into the Lake Ontario watershed. There are 4 pillars to the program. Fish production and stocking, which is raising and releasing Atlantic salmon back into the wild. Habitat restoration, to return the watersheds to a healthy and productive state. Research and monitoring, to see how the fish are doing and then guide our efforts. And education and outreach, letting people know about this important species, how it was lost, and how we are bringing it back. Part of the education and outreach pillar is a classroom hatchery program, where students get to observe Atlantic salmon develop from eggs to fry, learn about biology, ecology, natural history, and environmental stewardship. Behind me are two of the classroom hatchery tanks. Let's check them out. All right, so we have a tank under here. And this tank it's a little bit different than if you have fish at home. If you were to put your hand against this glass, you would feel that it's quite cold. In fact, this tank is running at 4 degrees Celsius. So we have to chill it. You'll see there's some coils in there. And we have a chiller unit here. So this keeps the water cold. Atlantic salmon are cold water species. They need the water to be really cold. Right in front of you, you will see this big yellow thing, and this is an incubating tray. About 3 months ago, we put 100 eggs into that incubating tray, and those eggs have been developing from eyed eggs, we call them, is when we got them. You could see their eyes, and now all the eggs have hatched into these tiny little fish that are called alevin. And with alevin, they have attached to their belly their yolk sac. And these fish will slowly be absorbing that yolk sac. That's all of their nutrient from the time that they're in their egg till they use up that yolk sac. So in the wild, those eggs would have been laid in gravel, and those fish would have hatched out and they would have been hiding in the gravel. So we're going to be releasing these fish soon out of this incubating tray, but they're perfectly fine in here right now. So we have the tank, the chiller, thermometer to monitor the temperature. We also have a filter to keep the water clean. And we have an aerator that's adding oxygen to the water. So in the wild, there's lots of processes, including plant life and microorganisms that help to keep the water clean. And we also have moving water. The streams have moving water in them, which add oxygen to the water. The tumbling of water over rocks grabs air and pushes it into the water. And of course, fish don't breathe like we do. They have gills to get oxygen out of the water. We then also cover this tank up, and that's partially to help the chiller be more efficient. It's just going to keep the temperature in there with the insulation, but more importantly is it keeps it dark, because that would be the condition that Atlantic salmon eggs develop in. They develop throughout the winter. The eggs are laid in the redds in November or December, and they slowly develop in the cold water stream under the ice where it's really dark. So we mimic that environment by putting insulation around the tank to keep it dark. Okay, and in our second tank here, the setup is all the same. However, we have been running this tank about 3 degrees warmer. So it's sitting at 7 degrees, still cold water, but the fish development is influenced by time and temperature. So these fish, being a little bit warmer water, they have developed just a little bit quicker. And these fish are almost off their yolk sac. So the other ones are called alevin with their yolk sac. These ones are almost at fry stage. So in the wild, it would be soon that they would be starting to look for food. And we're going to be feeding these ones in this tank very shortly. So these fish will be released in May into one of our restoration streams, where they'll live for another 1 to 3 years in the stream. They will go through a few more development stages before they'll swim down to Lake Ontario, where they will get bigger. They'll start eating fish. In the streams, they'll be eating tiny little bugs. And in the lake, they'll be eating different types of fish. And they'll grow much larger, and in 1 to 3 years of being in the lake, they will swim back up the stream they came from to spawn and start the life cycle again. Thanks for watching. To find out more about the Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program, please visit bringbackthesalmon.ca. The Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program is made possible by our lead sponsor, Ontario Power Generation. The Bring Back the Salmon Classroom Hatchery Program is funded in part by the Ontario Trillium Foundation.
Thanks, Ben. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. For those of you watching at home or at school, we'll be sure to post the link to the Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program in the video notes, so go and check them out. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and comment below, and subscribe to our channel to stay connected as we learn together outside the classroom.